Hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News and to Monday night's calendar.
Hello, thank you for joining us. Here are tonight's main stories.
A man appears in court on a video link from his hospital bed, accused of murdering a mother and her 3 children in a Bradford house fire.
39-year-old Sharaz Ali had been in a coma following the devastating blaze last August. After he regained consciousness, he was formally charged by police this morning. I'll have the details shortly.
Also tonight, scars that won't heal. 40 years after miners marched back to work, the fallout from Britain's bitterest industrial dispute lives on.
In some social circles, the hatred is still going to be there until the last breath. That's unfortunate, but it's the truth.
I'll die holding a grudge. I'll never ever forgive him. I'll take it to the grave with me.
Hotting up at the top, Sheffield United closed the gap on Championship leaders Leeds with this corker from Tyrese Campbell.
And going the extra mile, how a quick-thinking conductor sprang into action when baby Austin fell critically ill. But first tonight, a man has appeared in court via a video link from his hospital bed, accused of murdering a mother and her 3 children in a house fire.
Bryony Goworth, 9-year-old Dennisty Birtle, 5-year-old Oscar Birtle and 22-month-old Aubrey Birtle all died when the blaze ripped through their home in Westbury Road in Bradford last August.
Today, Sharaz Ali, who's 39, faced those 4 murder charges after he woke up from a coma after being seriously injured in that same fire. Well, Lisa Adlam is live for us outside Bradford Crown Court now. Lisa, this is an unusual and a tragic case.
Yes, Lara, it is tragic, and it was an unusual appearance here today at Bradford Crown Court. Sharaz Ali, as you say, appeared via a video link in the court from his hospital bed after he woke from the coma that at one time, earlier court hearings, had been told could mean he would never stand trial at all. However, after he regained consciousness and after what was described as a marked improvement in his condition, Ali was formally charged by police this morning. He was then seen on the video link here in court from his hospital bed. He spoke only when he was asked to confirm his name. Now, he is charged with murder after that house fire which killed Bryony Goworth and her 3 young children. Dennisty Birtle, who was 9, 5-year-old Oscar Birtle and Aubrey Birtle, who was just 22 months old. They died following that blaze at the house in Westbury Road, in the early hours of August the 21st last year.
And Lisa, of course, he's not the only person charged over these deaths, is he?
No, Ian, he isn't. There are 2 other men, Mohammed Shabir of Alice Street in Keighley and Callum Sunderland of Calton Street in Keighley. They deny killing the family. They also deny the attempted murder of Miss Goworth's sister. Their trial had been due to begin tomorrow, but now an application to delay that so that all 3 men can stand trial at the same time will now be heard next Monday.
Lisa Adlam reporting live from Bradford Crown Court. Thank you. 40 years ago today, the National Union of Mine Workers voted to bring an end to one of the most violent strikes this country has ever seen.
The 12-month miners' strike began at Cortonwood Colliery near Rotherham in March 1984, but it failed to prevent the impending closure of pits across the country, leaving communities in our region devastated.
Michael Billington is live at the former Caphouse Colliery in Wakefield Forest tonight. Now the National Mining Museum, of course. And Michael, you've been speaking to those who were on the front line of that bitter dispute. What's their sense of the legacy of the strike?
Well, Ian, it's 4 decades since 165,000 mine workers were told to start making their way back to work after a year-long strike, which pitted them in a war of words against the government and some of them in physical battles with police at picket lines across the country. It also sowed deep divisions in mining communities, with the decision whether or not to strike sometimes even splitting family loyalties. The strike itself may have lasted 12 months. But the legacy it's left behind has already lasted a generation. Displaying the same defiance as they had throughout the previous 12 months, miners returned to work 40 years ago with marching bands and banners. I mean, this looks like a celebration.
Yeah, it's sticking together.
But people presumably didn't feel in a celebratory mood.
No, absolutely not. But it's about sticking together. If we're either doing it or we're not, and if we're doing it, let's all do it together.
I felt physically sick. In fact, I was sick. We'd given everything to the strike, everything to the cause, and it had been almost for nothing.
I didn't want it to end. I wanted us to win. I was proud of everybody that were marching back, but I'm thinking we shouldn't be doing this.
It was the most bitter industrial dispute in British history. Brutal clashes with police, like here at Orgreave, were met with a defiant response from the government.
What we've got is an attempt to substitute the rule of the mob for the rule of law.
It was war. It was a civil war, and they had all the cards, and we've borne the brunt of that.
Despite all the blood that was shed, miners still didn't get what they wanted, an end to pit closures. Here we are, sat at what was Thoresby Colliery. It's now a building site for new homes. Was it all worth it?
Was it all worth it? The strike, in my opinion, in all honesty, would I change anything? No, because I think history's borne us out. The cost of destroying this industry and the cost of the nation can't be measured financially now. I've seen society break down, communities that have been left to rot. How difficult would it have been if we'd have won that strike?
This were Women Against Pit Closures. Me and Brenda.
Aggie Curry from Doncaster was one of a group of miners' wives front and centre of the women's fight against the closure of the mines. Arrested multiple times, standing up for what she believed, she says the demise of the coal mining communities is still being felt to this day.
Maggie Thatcher, she ruined everything. Community spirit, everything. And she was trying to break us. All right, then, she broke the sky, but she didn't break the people.
From the age of 16, mining was Pete Woodcock's life. Despite hundreds of thousands of job losses in the industry, he held on until the bitter end. Working at Kellingley Colliery on the day the UK's last remaining pit ceased production.
There were a lot of tears shed that day because that's it, we're turning the fans off, we're cutting the power off, that's it. And it's actually bringing a shiver back to me now. That's the end of the legacy, that's the end of the people who's worked and lost lives in a coal mine. So it was difficult and it is emotional now, yeah.
To this day, the rifts created by the strike in fractured coalfield communities continue to run deep. A decade since the end of the mining industry and 40 years since the most organised and concerted effort to save it. Is this all water under the bridge?
I do not hold a grudges against fellow mine workers. Even now there's families that will not talk to each other. The hatred is still going to be there until the last breath. That's unfortunate, but it's the truth.
I'll die holding a grudge. I'll never, ever forgive them. Never. I'll take it to the grave with me.
And that was a report by Michael Billington. You're watching Monday Night's Calendar with Ian White and Lara Rostron. Still to come tonight, on your marks. It's time to dust off those running shoes as Lindsay Burrow launches the 3rd Leeds Marathon in her late husband's name.
And high pressure just down here to the southeast is keeping things nice and settled in general for most of us this week. I'll have all the details in the forecast in a few minutes.
On to other news now, and 2 farmers have been fined for admitting to health and safety failings that led to a teacher being trampled to death by cattle in North Yorkshire.
David Clark from Richmond was killed while walking his dog in a field in September 2020. Jenny Henry was at the hearing and sent us this report.
It's taken 5 years to get to this point where we've seen some sort of accountability in the death of David Clarke. He was a 59-year-old former deputy head teacher at Richmond School and a father of 3. Judge Jonathan Carroll told the court today that Mr Clarke loved nothing more than to take a run in the countryside with his dogs on a public path. And that's exactly what he was doing on the 21st of September 2020. He used a public right-of-way through a field at Lord Gingerfield Farm near Richmond, where there were cows and calves grazing. He was trampled by the herd, and despite the best efforts of the air ambulance service, he sadly died. Brothers 57-year-old Andrew Turnbull and 61-year-old David Turnbull are the farmers that own that field. They were prosecuted by the Health and Safety Executive and they were due to stand trial this month. But before that trial could begin, they admitted to an offence based on not putting up enough warning signs advising the public to take alternative routes. They pleaded guilty to a charge of failing to ensure the health and safety of persons other than employees. Andrew Turnbull will pay a fine of £1,589, while David Turnbull will pay £1,390, and they will both pay £1,500 each in court costs. Now, the judge says that he based those fines on the income registered by the farmers with HMRC, and he said it does not, nor should be perceived by anybody to somehow be a reflection of the value of Mr Clarke, which is, of course, priceless in the eyes of those who loved and cherished him.
Yes, and that was Jenny Henry there. OK, time for some more news from around the region, and 2 men have been found guilty of sex offences after a court heard they regularly raped 2 teenagers more than 10 years ago in Rotherham. Their convictions are part of Operation Stovewood, a major investigation into historic sex abuse. Ronald Hoffett, who's from Sheffield, and Absalom Sejo from Rotherham were convicted at Sheffield Crown Court after a 5-week trial. Prosecutors said they exploited their young victims. The 2 men will be sentenced later.
Regional mayors are trying to find a solution to stop the Snake Pass from closing. The 12-mile-long stretch of the A57 connects Sheffield to Manchester, but there have been warnings that it could have to shut permanently because of the cost of repairs to Derbyshire County Council. South Yorkshire's Mayor Oliver Coppard says it's vital to find a way to keep it open.
Meanwhile, 3 weeks of disruption on the railway between Leeds and Manchester started today. It's while major improvements are made between Ravensthorpe and Leeds. Now, rail replacement buses will be running instead of trains for the duration of the works, except at weekends. Trains will not stop at Ravensthorpe, Dewsbury, Batley, Morley or Cottingley.
Now, bringing a new life into the world can be an exciting time, and for some also perhaps a little bit scary. And perhaps that's why a growing number of expectant mums are opting to have caesareans rather than a natural birth.
Once considered a surgical intervention reserved for high-risk deliveries, the number of C-sections has steadily increased over the past decade. The NHS now allows mums to opt for a caesarean for non-medical reasons.
But what does it mean for the health of mothers and babies? Chloe Oliver has been investigating.
At this Little Seedlings class in Leeds, parents are adjusting to life with their baby. But how they welcome their newest addition into the world is changing. The NHS has found more women are now having a child by caesarean section.
Yeah, I was really scared for the C-section, but now if I had another, I would just have an elective C-section because the actual C-section was fine. It was all the scary bits leading up to it.
So I did feel upset at the time about not being able to have, go into labour and do the natural delivery. But at the same time, I felt very much in control of this decision.
I went through the whole of labour and then had to have a C-section anyway. And I think I felt like it would have been easier if I'd just had the C-section in the first place.
Clara has been a midwife for the last 30 years and says they work to ensure every birth aligns with the best interests of both mother and child.
It's very varied. Every woman is different, every circumstance is different, every labour is different, every birth. So some women have particular needs and wants around their birth, and they can be quite individual, they can be quite different to somebody else.
The increasing use of C-sections is a trend that reflects larger shifts in modern healthcare and societal changes. According to the latest NHS figures, in England, 42% of all births are now by caesarean section, compared with 29% 5 years ago. In fact, half of women aged 30 to 39 have caesarean births. And for those over 40, this is now the most common way for their baby to be born. The Royal College of Midwives say complex births are a factor in why we're seeing more caesareans, with rising rates of obesity and people choosing to have children later in life.
Age is definitely part of that, but also an increase in fertility treatment and women choosing to have babies older, definitely, but also women choosing to have babies when they already have maybe a complicated illness.
While C-sections can be life-saving in certain situations, the growing reliance on them has divided opinion.
For most people, when they are pregnant, they really want to do everything as naturally as possible and they want to feel empowered. And actually things like too posh to push can come from fear rather than actually I have an issue with natural birth. A lot of it is around education as well.
There's an ongoing push by healthcare providers to improve patient education around birth, so expectant mothers can make informed choices about how their baby is delivered. Chloe Oliver, ITV News.
I just think whatever it takes to have a healthy baby.
That's the important thing, Laura. Absolutely.
It is. OK, well, it's time for some sport now, and Arif joins us.
Yes, thank you, Lara. Well, tonight we'll be looking back at the weekend's action, plus news of a homecoming fight for Terry Harper.
Xero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Well, we'll start with football first, as Leeds United's winning run came to an end at the weekend as they were held to a home draw by West Brom. The Whites took the lead through Junior Firpo's second-headed goal in a week. Daniel Furlong's looping header, though, meant the spoils were shared at Ellen Road. That allowed Sheffield United to cut the gap at the top to just 3 points after they beat QPR. Tyrese Campbell's rocket from outside the box helping them to a 2-1 win. Meanwhile, Sheffield Wednesday's playoffs hope hangs in the balance after they lost 2-1 at home to Sunderland.
And Arif, Rotherham United's travelling fans certainly have got something to shout about now, haven't they?
Oh, yes, Ian, finally. It's been a long overdue away win for Rotherham. But in fact, the last time they won on the road at 3 o'clock on a Saturday was 1,099 days ago. 3 years of hurt for Miller's fans came to an end with a 3-2 win at Bristol Rovers. Sam Nombe bundled in a 92nd minute winner to finally send the travelling support home happy. Elsewhere, Barnsley fought off a late comeback from Lincoln to win a thriller at Oakwell, the Tykes winning that one 4-3. Huddersfield are back to winning ways. They saw Stevenage with a hard-fought 2-1 win. And Lucas Aylings had the chance to end Manfield's 10-game winless run, but he blazed his effort over the bar. The Stags had to settle for a 1-1 draw. Meanwhile, Bradford are flying down in League Two. They're up to second after a late comeback win over Salford. Hot on their tails are Doncaster Rovers, who are up to third thanks to a 3-0 win over Newport. And Harrogate put some much-needed space between themselves and the drop zone with a win over Accrington. To boxing, and Terry Harper will make the first defence of her lightweight world title in her hometown of Doncaster. The three-weight world champion will step into the ring against Natalie Zimmerman at the Eco Power in May. She'll headline the show. They'll also see Rossington's Maxie Hughes on the undercard. And finally, from me, it's congratulations to Gary Swift, who became the inaugural World Disability Snooker Champion in Thailand at the weekend. Gary, who's from Sheffield, beat his Thai opponent 3-1 in the final yesterday on his way to picking up the title. Yeah, well done to him.
Well done, Gary. That's
yeah,
well
done
to Gary. Yeah, brilliant,
really good. Yeah,
great.
Thank you, Arif.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now then, if you fancy joining the thousands of runners taking part in this year's Robborough Marathon, but you can't quite go the full distance, Ian, you can still be part of the vital fundraising efforts for motor neurone disease on a smaller scale. Today saw the launch of the third marathon in Rob's name, which will take place in Leeds on the 11th of May. And this time it'll also feature a mile-long run the day before. And teams of 7 runners will be able to take part in a 7-leg relay over the 26.2-mile course on the day itself.
To be able to involve not just MND communities, but lots of communities that maybe are not up to running a marathon, don't want to run the full marathon, but want to be involved. I think it's great that it can be so inclusive and get so many people involved in the events. This year is particularly poignant, having been the first year since Rob was here last year. He took part with Kevin, obviously in the first year. So not having Rob here, I think it's going to be an emotional day. But we're running for Rob, and his spirit, he'll be with us in spirit. So determined to make him proud.
26 miles in a 60 wheelchair.
Since my dad's diagnosis, we took inspiration from that. Wanted to do the marathon, so we've had a chair kindly donated by GFS, and then so we're taking on the challenge. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, good luck to all people taking part. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. Now, a supermarket worker from Leeds who received a golden buzzer on Britain's Got Talent this weekend has described it as like an out-of-body experience. Stacey Ledbetter wowed the judges with her rendition of Snow Patrol's Run, only for Judge KSI to give her a pass to the semi-final. Stacey says she's had customers and colleagues congratulating her and admitted on ITV1's Lorraine today that it was the first time she performed on such a big stage.
I was very overwhelmed. It just didn't seem real. I was just like, what's just happened? Wow. I was just like, ooh. I'm still like that now, to be honest. Even watching it and knowing that I've been there, it's incredible.
I think you went through every single emotion and we were there with you.
I did, yeah. I was so proud just seeing my daughter on that stage.
I know.
Yeah, and my emotions they just came out.
Oh, Stacey, it's brilliant, isn't it?
I know, never mind popping to see Lorraine. She wants to come and pop and see us.
Yes, well, we're hoping that she might do. More on that another day. And finally, to the quick-thinking efforts of a train conductor, which may have helped save the life of a 6-month-old passenger. Now, baby Austin has hydrocephalus, a build-up of fluid on the brain, and he was travelling with his parents from Nottingley to Leeds when he became seriously ill.
Well, what happened next? His mum and dad was nothing short of heroic, and they've now nominated the conductor who helped for a Pride of Britain award, as Sally Simpson reports.
Life hasn't been a smooth journey for little Austin. Diagnosed with hydrocephalus when he was 5 months old, he's had to go through several operations already. One of those was the result of an incident which unfolded here on the Nottingley to Leeds train line, as his mum Jane recalls.
Changed him as normal, came out, we were having giggles, and all of a sudden turned him around, felt his back, and he was absolutely drenched. And then turned him around, and that's when I saw the fluid coming out of the bottom of his scar.
As James Hallett passed through the train checking tickets, he realised the seriousness of the situation and sprang into action, providing blankets and reassurance, the first aid Austin and his parents required.
There was this tiny little person on my train, clearly in need of medical help that I'm not trained to provide, and neither is anybody else on the train. At the time, you just jump in and do the next thing you have to do. But looking back, I'm just amazed we actually managed to get him to Leeds in one piece and actually get him the help that he needed.
For that, Joel and Jane will be forever grateful.
He's a superstar in our eyes.
Yeah, we're really grateful.
You know, to what Austin might not be here. If he hadn't have done what he did. He could have got hypothermia, because he had blankets but he wasn't doing anything. But a foil blanket just brung his body temperature up. I couldn't ask for anything better off him.
Even more than thanks, Joel and Jane have also given James their backing for a Pride of Britain award, nominating him for the recognition they say he richly deserves.
He went above and beyond. He could have happily just scanned our ticket and walked on by. He didn't have to get... He didn't have to go and get his first aid kit or a foil blanket. He could have just left us panicking, you know. He could, like I say, he could have just walked on by and thought note of it and off he went. But he didn't. He's a superstar.
James says being reunited with Austin and his parents is the only reward he wanted.
It's actually really, really, really nice. So often things like this happen, you never see the people again. They come in your life, they leave again, and you wonder what happens. So it's lovely to see them all. It's lovely to see Austin doing so well.
Now 8 months old and loving life, Austin still has more treatment ahead of him. But his family will always be glad they crossed paths with James as part of their journey. Sally Simpson, ITV News, Nottingley.
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? Well done, James. I'm so pleased to see Austin's well.
I know, it must have been terrifying at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it must have been. Anyway, good news. OK, let's go to the weather.
Today's forecast: seafood and sugar cube towns. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. A few bright spells around today, but there's been quite a good deal of cloud cover. That tends to melt away by the end of tonight. And the next couple of days offering up plenty of dry, usable weather. High pressure will dominate as we head our way through the working week. In general, temperatures by day are mild, plenty of sunshine to look forward to. By the weekend, something more changeable in prospect, with rain moving in. But as we can see, pressure-wise into tonight and tomorrow, no real problems, no fronts being allowed to gain access up to the northwest of Scotland. Some rain, but for Yorkshire and certainly southern parts of the region through tomorrow afternoon, there'll be some gorgeous sunshine to come. Back to the details for this evening and overnight. Low cloud mistiness tends to reform, but for a time up till midnight, winds are very light. After that point, into tomorrow morning, winds pep up a touch, it blows the cobwebs away, skies will clear, but temperatures remain above freezing. Not as chilly as last night, 3 or 4 Celsius rurally probably. Perhaps a fresh start to the day tomorrow, but it won't be frosty. On to the details for tomorrow. First of all, the sun times. It'll be rising at 6:48. And sets tomorrow evening at 5:49. A dry start across the board tomorrow and perhaps some cloud around, but as winds increase a little bit through the morning, that will blow the cobwebs away. And it's set to be a really nice day, bright and breezy and fresh, but if you're out of the wind, tomorrow afternoon in the sunshine, it'll feel quite pleasant with a maximum temperature for Yorkshire tomorrow of 12 Celsius, 54 Fahrenheit. High pressure dominates through the rest of the working week. It's dry, mild, plenty of sunshine to look forward to. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Yeah, thanks to Joe for the forecast. They're looking nice for Thursday.
Lots of sunshine for this week. How good is that?
Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
The
That's
weekend
it for
will just
now,
get
isn't it?
better.
I'll be back with our late news at 10:30 and we're both back tomorrow night at 6. From us all, a very good night.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.